Good morning, students. Say your prayer. Thank you. நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர். நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்து முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர். நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்து முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர். நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்து முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். Okay, students, take your social science book. Take page number 202. So today also we will continue with the geography, biosphere. So in our previous classes we discussed about the three spheres of Earth, so which are non-living factor. So that is atmosphere, hydrosphere, then lithosphere. So last class we discussed about hydrosphere, so the water body of the earth, so the water surface, so where is water present, so the nature of water and the ocean floor of our planet earth. In today's class, in this lesson we will discuss about the living nature of the earth. See, in all the spheres, that is in atmosphere, hydrosphere, then lithosphere, we can see living organisms. So we can see living organisms. So that is called as biosphere. So we will discuss about biosphere in this lesson. Okay, ma? Learning objectives. What are you going to learn from this lesson? To understand the scope and meaning of biosphere. So to understand the scope, so the importance and the meaning of biosphere. Then to understand the meaning of ecosystem. So what is meant by ecosystem? Then its components, functions and biodiversity. So to understand the meaning of ecosystem, its components, functions and biodiversity. Then to know the major biomes of the world. So to know the major biomes of the world. So biome means geographically extensive ecosystem where plants and animals are found. So biome means geographically a large area, so where plants and animals are found collectively. Then to know the need for the conservation of biomes. So first to know the major biomes of the world, then to know the need for the conservation of biomes. So in this lesson you are going to first understand about the scope and meaning of biosphere. Then to understand the meaning of ecosystem, its components, functions and biodiversity. Then to know the major biomes of the world. Then to know the need for the conservation of biomes. So first biosphere, so meaning of biosphere and its importance. Then components, ecosystem and its components and also biodiversity. Then finally about the major biomes of the world and the need for the conservation of those biomes. Introduction. Biosphere, it is the fourth sphere of the earth. So the remaining three spheres are lithosphere, atmosphere, then hydrosphere. So biosphere is the fourth sphere of earth, is a life supporting layer that exists on the earth surface. So biosphere is the fourth sphere and that is the life supporting layer that exists on the earth surface. So this layer on earth encompasses. So encompasses means that surround. So this layer on earth that surrounds the lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere. It includes flora and fauna. So flora means it includes plants. So plants. Then fauna means it related with animals. So it includes flora and fauna, that is plants and animals that thrive on. So that is developed strongly or grow very strongly so on or near the earth surface. So biosphere is the fourth sphere of the earth, which is a life supporting layer that exists on earth surface. So biosphere, it is the life supporting layer. So this layer, it includes, it encompasses, it surrounds the other three layers, that is lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere. So if you take biosphere, you can see living organisms in all these three layers. So you can see living organisms in lithosphere, in hydrosphere and also in atmosphere. So biosphere, it includes both plants and animals, so that grow strongly, so that thrive on or near the earth surface, so that grow on the earth surface or near the earth surface. So if you take the vertical range of the biosphere is approximately 20 kilometers. So the vertical range of the biosphere is approximately 20 km, which is measured from the ocean floor to the troposphere. So the vertical range, so where you can see the living organisms in the all the spheres of the earth means it is approximately 20 km. So measured from the ocean floor to the troposphere. So from ocean floor to troposphere, so up to 20 km range, you can see living organisms. You can find living organisms. But however, most plants and animals live in a very narrow section for about 1 kilometer above and below the mean sea level. So however, most plants and animals live just above and below 1 kilometer. So the vertical range of biosphere, so you can see living organisms maximum up to a height of 20 km from ocean floor to troposphere. But the maximum number of living organisms exist. So maximum number of plants and animals live in a very narrow section for about 1 kilometer above and below the mean sea level. So above and below the mean sea level, just for a range of 1 kilometer. You can find most of the living organisms. But approximately they live up to, so you can find living organisms up to 20 km. So from ocean floor to up to height of 20 km. So if you go vertically upward means, so up to 20 km height, so up to the troposphere, you can see living organisms. So, but most of the plants and animals live in the region between 1 kilometer. So between the above and below sea level. So biosphere is the life supporting layer which includes lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere. It includes plants and animals that grow well, so that develop on or near the earth's surface. So the vertical range is 20 km, but most plants and animals live in a narrow section for about 1 km above and below mean sea level. So biosphere is made up of different ecosystem and biomes. So biosphere is made up of different ecosystem and biomes. All living things, large or small, are grouped into species. So all living things, large or small, are grouped into species. So species, it is a biological term. So all the organisms, so divided, named into species. The area in which an animal, plant or microorganism lived is called its habitat. So the area, the place where an animal, plant or microorganism live is called its habitat. Say for example, your home is habitat for you. So not only for you. In your home, you can find a lizard, you can find insect, you can find what? Frog. So where is insects, animals? So for those things, for those living creatures, your home is habitat. So not only your home is habitat for you, you and your family. So there are some other microorganisms or some other insects or some other living creatures live in your home. So for them, your home is your habitat. So habitat is nothing but an area in which an animal, a plant or microorganisms live. Then if a wide variety of plants and animals live in a particular habitat, then it is known as biodiversity. So if a wide variety of plants and animals live in a particular habitat, so live in a particular area, particular place means, then it is called as biodiversity. So habitat means area in which animal, plant or microorganisms live. So biodiversity, a wide variety of plants and animals live in a particular habitat. So say for example, take a pond. So pond is a habitat. So if biodiversity means, if take a forest region. So forest region, you can see pond, you can see trees, you can see some other natural sources also. So it is a biodiversity. So that is habitat and this is biodiversity. Then ecosystem. What do you mean by ecosystem? An ecosystem is a community where all living organisms live and interact with one another and also with their non-living environment such as land, soil, air, water, etc. So an ecosystem is a community where all living organisms live and interact with one another and also with their non-living environment such as land, soil, air, water, etc. Ecosystem range in size from smallest unit, that is example a bark of a tree, a branch of a tree, that can sustain life to the global ecosystem or ecosphere. So ecosystem range in size. So it may be from small to big. So small means, so like a branch of a tree. Or it includes the whole globe, so whole earth. Yeah. So example, cropland, pond ecosystem, forest ecosystem, desert ecosystem. Yeah. Biosphere harbors, it supports all ecosystem on the earth and sustains life forms including mankind. Yeah. So sustain means so to make something continue for a longer time without becoming less. Yeah. So biosphere support all ecosystem on the earth. So ecosystem, so it may be a forest ecosystem, it may be a pond, it may be a desert. Even in desert you can find some living organisms, some living creatures. So biosphere, so it support the living creatures on the earth and allow the living organisms to be in the earth for millions of years. So ecosystem, it is a community where all living organisms live and interact with one another. And also with their non-living environment. So not only with the other living organisms. So living creatures, they interact with one another. And at the same time, they had interaction. So they had relationship with the non-living environment, such as land, soil, air, water, etc. Ecosystem. So the size may be vary from smaller to big. So smaller means just a branch of tree is enough. It is also an ecosystem. But at the same time, the whole world. So Earth is a ecosystem. So in Earth you can see millions of organisms, so millions of billions of living creatures in Earth. So biosphere, it harbors all ecosystem on the Earth and sustains life forms including mankind. So the branch of science that deals about ecosystem is called the ecology. So the branch of science that deals about the ecosystem is called the ecology. A person who studies ecology is referred to as the ecologist. A person who studies about ecology is referred to as the ecologist. So components of ecosystem. So first, what even by ecosystem? A community where all living organisms live and interact and also with the non-living environment. So the components of ecosystem. An ecosystem consists of three basic components. So they are abiotic component, biotic component, then energy component. So an ecosystem consists of three basic components: abiotic, biotic, and energy components. So what are they? What is meant by abiotic, biotic, and energy? First, abiotic components. So abiotic component means it includes the non-living, inorganic, physical, and chemical factors in the environment. So abiotic components. So abiotic, so non-living. So not only non-living, it includes inorganic, physical, and chemical factors in the environment. So abiotic components include the non-living, inorganic, physical, and chemical factors in the environment. So what are the abiotic components? You can see land, air, water, calcium, ion. So calcium, ion, they are, we can say it as chemical factors. So land, physical factor, air, water, then non-living factors. So you can see non-living factors in a region, in an environment. So they are called as abiotic components. So abiotic components include the non-living, inorganic, physical, and chemical factors in the environment. So don't think these factors are not important. So all living creatures depend on this factor only. So for their survival. So we need land, we need air, we need water. So these abiotic components are also very important in an ecosystem. Then biotic component means, it includes living organisms. So biotic components includes plants, animals, and microorganisms. So biotic components includes plants, animals, and microorganisms. So abiotic means it includes non-living creatures, while biotic components includes living creatures. But biotic components can be classified into three categories. So biotic components can be classified into three categories. So producers, then consumers, then decomposers. So biotic components, so living natures, so living creations can be classified into three types: producers, consumers, and decomposers. So producers, so they are the self-nourishing components of the ecosystem. So that means they can able to produce their own food. So producers, so they can able to produce their own food. So it includes all the green plants. So producers are the self-nourishing components of the ecosystem. Hence, they are called as autotrophs. So auto means self. So they can produce their own food. So they are found both on land and water. So producers are found both on land and water. So example for producers were plants algae, bacteria, etc. So in the biotic components, it includes plants, animals, and microorganisms. So normally, biotic components can be classified into three categories: producers, consumers, then decomposers. If you take producers, so they are the self-nourishing components. That means they can produce their own food. With the help of sunlight, they can produce their own food. Hence, they are called as autotrophs. So they are found both on land and water. So example, plants. So all green plants. So green leaf plants are producers. And algae. So some of the algae and some bacteria. Then the consumers. So consumers are those that depend on producers directly or indirectly. So consumers are those that depend on producers directly or indirectly. Hence, they are called as heterotrophs. The common category of consumers are primary consumers, secondary consumers, then tertiary consumers. So consumers, so they are further classified as primary, secondary, then tertiary. So primary, so depend on producer for their food directly. So they are exclusively herbivores. So herbivores, you learned in science in your lower classes. So herbivores means plant-eating animals. Example, zebra, goat, etc. Then secondary consumers are small carnivores. That is, they consume herbivores. Example, lion, snake, etc. So secondary consumer means they include small carnivores, so which consume herbivores. Example, lion, snake, etc. Tertiary consumers, so they are top level carnivores that prey on both herbivores and carnivores. So tertiary consumers, they are top level carnivores that depend on, so that prey on both herbivores and carnivores. Example, owl, crocodile, etc. So the consumers are nothing but so which depend on producers directly or indirectly for food. So hence they are called as heterotrophs. So consumers are classified into three categories: primary, secondary, then tertiary. So primary consumers, they depend on producers directly for their food. They are herbivores. So example, zebra, goat, etc. Then secondary consumers, so they are small carnivores. That is, they consume herbivores. Example, lion and snake. Apart from that, tertiary consumer is there. So they are top level carnivores which prey on both herbivores and carnivores. Example, owl, crocodile, etc. Then the third category in biotic component is decomposers. So decomposers are some organisms that are incapable of preparing its own food. So like consumers, decomposers, so they are also unable to prepare their own food. But they live on dead and decaying plants and animals. So decomposers depend on dead and decaying plants and animals. So hence they are called as saprotrophs. So if you take producers, they are called as autotrophs. Then consumers, they are all otherwise called as heterotrophs. Decomposers, they are called as saprotrophs. So example, fungus and mushroom. So the components of ecosystem, we discussed about abiotic component, then biotic component. So abiotic component means non-living, inorganic, physical, chemical factors. So example for abiotic components, land, air, water, calcium, iron, etc. Then biotic components, producers, then consumers. So producers, so they are called as autotrophs, prepare their own food. So example, plants, algae, bacteria, etc. Consumers, so they depend on producers directly or indirectly. So what are the three categories of consumers? Primary consumer, secondary consumer, then tertiary consumer. So example for tertiary consumer, owl, crocodile. Then decomposer, so they are also unable to prepare their own food, but they live on dead and decaying plants and animals. Then third component, so the third component of ecosystem, energy component. So all organisms in the biosphere use energy to work and convert one form of energy into another. So all living organisms, all organisms in the biosphere use energy directly or indirectly, so in order to work and convert one form of energy into another. So the sun is the ultimate source of energy for the biosphere as a whole. So the sun is the ultimate source of energy for the biosphere as a whole. The solar energy gets transformed into other forms of energy through the various components in the ecosystem. So the solar energy gets transformed into other forms of energy. So how? So if you take plants, so how they prepare their own food? With the help of sunlight. So with the help of sunlight only, so the plants prepare their own food and grow well. So herbivores and other animals, so how they get energy? By eating those plants only. So if you take herbivores, they depend on these plants and animals. Then carnivores, they eat these herbivores. So thus the sun is the ultimate source of energy. So the energy is transferred from sun to plant, then to other living organisms. So just an example. So other organisms also get energy through sunlight. So especially the producers. So from producers to consumers, then decomposers. So the producers, consumers, and the decomposers contribute a lot to the energy flow in an ecosystem. So all organisms in the biosphere use energy to work and convert one form of energy into another. So the sun is the ultimate source of energy. The solar energy gets transformed into other forms of energy through the various components in the ecosystem. So the producers, consumers, and the decomposers contribute a lot to the energy flow in an ecosystem. Then the functions of an ecosystem. So we discussed about the ecosystem, then components of ecosystem, then the functions of ecosystem. The living organisms form an interacting set of flora and fauna which are organized into trophic levels, food chain, and food web. So the living organisms, they form an interacting set of flora and fauna which are organized into trophic levels, food chains, and food webs. So the functioning of an ecosystem depends on the pattern of the energy flow, as it helps in the distribution and circulation of the organic and inorganic matter within the ecosystem. So the functioning of an ecosystem depends on the pattern of energy flow, because it helps in the distribution and circulation of the organic and inorganic matter within the ecosystem. So the function, it depends on the pattern of energy flow. So how the energy flows, because it helps in the distribution and circulation of the organic and inorganic matter. So the path of energy flow helps in the distribution and circulation of the organic and inorganic matter within an ecosystem. Energy flow generally takes place in the hierarchical order in an ecosystem through various levels. So energy flow generally takes place in an hierarchical order. So that is from higher to lower in an ecosystem through various levels. So these levels are called as trophic levels. Then the chain of transformation of energy from one group of organism to another through various trophic level is called a food chain. So the chain of transformation of energy from one group of organism to another through various trophic level is called a food chain, while a system of interlocking and interdependent food chain is called food web. So food chain means so transfer of energy from one group of organism to another through various trophic level. So food chain. So food web means a system of interlocking, then interdependent. So interlocking means two or more things that overlap or fit together. Interdependent, depend on each other. A system of interlocking, then interdependent food chain is called a food web. So the functions of ecosystem. So the living organisms, so they form an interaction between flora and fauna which are organized into trophic levels, food chain, and food web. So the functioning of an ecosystem, so they depend on the path of energy flow, as it helps in the distribution and circulation of the organic and inorganic matter within ecosystem. Energy flow, so generally take place in a hierarchical order, so which is through various levels. So these levels are called as trophic levels. Then the chain of transformation of energy from one group of organism to another through various trophic level is called a food chain. A system of interlocking, then interdependent food chain is called a food web. So this is the functioning of ecosystem. Then the biodiversity. So we discussed about the ecosystem. Then biodiversity. So biodiversity or biological diversity refers to a wide variety of living organisms, that is plants, animals, and other microorganisms which live in a habitat. So biodiversity or biological diversity refers to a wide variety of living organisms which live in a habitat. It is highly influenced by the topography, so that is the physical nature of the place, climate, and also human activities. So biodiversity or biological diversity refers to a wide range of living organisms living in a particular area, so living in a particular habitat. So it is highly influenced by, so biodiversity is highly influenced by topography, then climate, and also human activities. It represents the strength of the biological resources of a place on earth. So biodiversity represents the strength of the biological resources of a place on earth. In a biodiversity, each species, no matter how big or small, has an important role to play in the ecosystem. In a biodiversity, each species, so each living organisms, so maybe big or small, so they have their role. So they have their important role in the ecosystem. It maintains the ecological balance and facilitates social benefits such as tourism, education, research, etc. over an area. Yes, it maintains the ecological balance and facilitates the social benefit such as tourism, education, research, etc. over an area. So biodiversity, so living organisms in an area is very important. So maybe small or big, but their contribution to the area, to a region is very important. So don't think it is very small, it is very big like that at all. So even a small microorganisms, it is helps in the decay process. So the big animals, so it controls the biodiversity region. So biodiversity is very important. So it refers to the wide variety of living organisms that live in a habitat, which it represents the strength of the biological resources of a place on earth. The loss of biodiversity. So the extinction of species. So extinction means becoming extinct, that is no longer existing. So they are existing. So they are no more. So the extinction of species, flora and fauna, due to human and natural influences is called the loss of biodiversity. So the extinction of species, that is plants and animals. So the loss of life of plants and animals because of human and natural influences. So human influences, we are polluting the environment, so that it harms the life. So naturally some of the species so become extinct. So say for example dinosaurs, so they are alive now? No. So naturally they are extinct. But human activities, so because of the industrial development in the recent years, so there are number of living organisms, so that became extinct. So that is the loss of biodiversity. A healthy ecosystem, so if you take ecosystem, it should be healthy. So how it should be healthy? Only if you take proper action and step. So if we respect the nature means, then we can have a healthy ecosystem. So a healthy ecosystem provides clean water, pure water, enriched soil, food, raw materials, medicines, etc. So hence stable biosphere has to be conserved. So loss of biodiversity, the extinction of species, flora and fauna, the plants and animals due to human and natural influences or activities is called as loss of biodiversity. A healthy ecosystem provides clean water, pure water, enriched soil, food, raw materials, medicines, etc. Hence stable biosphere has to be conserved. Okay students, so we have completed today's topic, ecosystem, then biodiversity. So tomorrow's class we will discuss about biomes. So take your book. Take page number 203. Textbook reading. Read the heading components of ecosystem. Page number 203. Components of ecosystem. You have to read abiotic components, biotic components, then energy components up to that. Then homework. Take page number 208. Fourth Roman letter, first 4 questions. First question, what is biosphere? Page number 207. Second question, what is an ecosystem? Also in page number 207. Then third, what does the term biodiversity mean? Page number 204. Fourth, what is meant by loss of biodiversity? Page number 204. So first question and second question. Take page number 207. So see the recap headings. Point. First point. The biosphere is a thin layer on, above and beneath the earth where life exists. So that is the answer for first question. Then second point, ecosystem. The place on earth where living organisms live and interact with one another and with their physical environment is called the ecosystem. That is the answer for second question. Then third question, fourth question, come to page number 204. So the biodiversity heading, saying that first 2 point, biodiversity or biological diversity refers to a wide variety of living organisms, in bracket plants, animals and other organisms which live in a habitat. That's enough. Third question. Then fourth question, loss of biodiversity. The extinction of species, in bracket flora and fauna, due to human and natural influences called the loss of biodiversity. So that is the answer for fourth question. Write it in your homework note. So all questions are very simple. So just a line, 1 or 2 line only. So write it and read it well. So thank you. Have a nice day.